What is up, low baggers? It's your boy Anna Merritt Clint coming back to you for another MMA card. We've got UFC 246 coming up this weekend, and we are finally back to MMA. I cannot wait. We've had about a month off from fighting action, and I am going nuts over here. As much as I love the NFL, it is killing me. I am not very good at betting it. So we've got some picks here for you for UFC 246, the return of Conor McGregor. We're headed out to the desert in Las Vegas, and I've got 8 picks on this card, folks. 8 picks, that's right. So let's hustle along through this. We got to burn through these bad boys quick. Kicking off our night, we're going to roll with Justin Ledet at plus 100. We've got an even money underdog. He's welcoming this kid Cameron to the UFC. It's going to be his UFC debut. He is 5-0, sporting 5 wins by knockout. Now, Ledet is a very serviceable fighter. He is on a bit of a rough patch right now, a 2-loss losing streak. He ran into Alexander Rakic and he ran into Johnny Walker. Those two guys are headed for the top 5 of the division and maybe even future title contenders, the both of them. So this is a massive, massive step up for Cameron. Not only is he stepping up to the UFC, but he's taking on a guy who's arguably in the middle of the pack in the UFC's heavyweight division, light heavyweight division, I apologize. So because of that, we're going to fade him. I love to fade people taking that initial step up in competition. Usually it takes them a time or two to get that right, and I think that Ledet is going to have a boxing edge as well as a hand speed edge, and he's going to get the win here for us at plus 100. Let's go. Our second fight of the night, we're going to take Askar Askarov. He is on his second UFC fight. He fought with Brandon Moreno just recently to a draw, and he's taking on Tim Elliott. I'm not going to mince words here. I don't like Tim Elliott. I don't think he's a very good fighter. I actually think he's on a bit of a downslide, and we have really seen the best of Tim Elliott come and go already. So we are going to straight up fade him here. The line opened up as a pick'em, and I smashed Askar Askarov at minus 115 as soon as I saw that opportunity. This is going to be a scrambly ground fest. Tim Elliott tends to give up bad positions because he's just so confident in his ground game, but he's been subbed out multiple times. And a high-level grappler and grinder like Askar Askarov should be able to take advantage of those opportunities and backpack him and either be able to just out-wrestle him for 15 minutes or lock up that submission. Our next play is going to be on Roxanne Modafferi versus Maycee Barber. This one is straight and simple. As you all know, I have a 100% bet hit rate on my girl, Roxanne Modafferi. I'm very familiar with her and her strengths and her weaknesses. Now, you want to look at the betting line, and Maycee Barber is an insane minus 1,000 or higher in this spot. And I unfortunately can't tell you that we're going to roll the dice on my girl, Roxanne Modafferi. I just don't see it. What we're going to do is take the under 1.5. We've got the under 1.5 sitting at plus 115, and I locked that up. The reason I want to hit that here is because Maycee Barber has such an athletic advantage over my girl Roxy that as soon as she figures that out, it's going to be game over. Roxanne is not going to be able to get the takedown on Maycee Barber, and if she does get it, she will not be able to hold this young girl down. She's physically strong, she's fast, she's explosive. I think Roxy's in for a bad night, and the under 1.5 leaves that door ever so slightly open that if Roxy happens to snatch up a crazy submission attempt or something, then we will still cash our bet. The next line we're looking at is the biggest play on the card for me, the biggest dog play on the card. I apologize, let me correct that. The biggest dog play on my card is Anthony Showtime Pettis taking on Carlos Diego Ferreira. Now, this is another spot where I'm fading a fighter, stepping up in competition. Carlos Diego Ferreira is on an absolute tear right now. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and he's looked very, very impressive. He was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy that really started to fall in love with his striking abilities, and that's taken him very, very far. He's a pressure fighter, and something that he wants to come in here and do is break Anthony Pettis. You've all heard the criticisms of Anthony is that he is breakable. He does have a little bit of quit in him. However, he's been alternating wins and losses for about the past 5 years. Something that we see out of him is that when he dips his competition level down just a notch, when he's not fighting former champions or title contenders, he demolishes his opponents. Carlos Diego Ferreira is impressive, but he's actually the older of the two fighters here. This is going to be his first time dipping his toe into the top 10, top 15, and he has been hurt. He's shown weakness to the body. He's shown that his chin is suspect, and when you have a guy like Anthony Pettis who's going to have a massive speed advantage, who will have a striking skill advantage, he's gonna hurt him. And I think there's a decent chance that Anthony Pettis pulls this upset off. I love it. We got plus 210 on Anthony. Showtime Pettis to bounce back and remind us that this guy is a top 5 fighter and basically always has been. We're moving right along. The next play on the card is Alexa Grasso. I've got her at plus 100, another even money underdog. She's taking on Claudia Gadelha. And this is a spot where you would say, but Clint, don't we fade people stepping up in competition? Because this certainly is that for Alexa Grasso. Well, yes, we normally do. But in this case, we are fading a fighter who's got a bad gas tank. And that's just something that Claudia Gadelha has never been able to correct. She's always had gas tank problems, and if you can make her work in round 1, she gasses out in round 2, and she's got nothing in round 3. Alexa Grasso is by far the better striker of these two women. On the ground, she's going to be comparable, and she's very aggressive off her back. So even if Claudia is able to get the takedown, even if Claudia is able to use her wrestling and put Grasso on her back, Grasso's going to make her work for it. She tries to hit reversals, sweeps. She tries to submit from her back. That's the kind of person that Carla is going to have to, Claudia is going to have to expend energy trying to hold Grasso down. And because she's going to have to expend that kind of energy in round 2, Alexa Grasso is going to have a much easier time boxing her up and hurting her in the striking game. She might even be able to defend all of those takedowns. And call me crazy, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on Alexa Grasso inside the distance or in the round 3 prop, because I think there's a decent chance with the amount of damage that Claudia Gadelha has taken over her career that it's just too much at this point. And someone like Alexa Grasso, who's got a phenomenal gas tank and knows how to sit down on her punches, could possibly put her away late in this one. Our next fight here is going to be Alexei Oleinik. We're going to roll with the old man, the boa constrictor, at plus 115. Now, normally I have the rule of not betting on a fighter who's over the age of 40, and Oleinik is in fact 42. But he's taking on Maurice Greene, and he is a green fighter with holes all over his game. He's long, he's rangy, he is very fast, and that's something that we do find a little bit concerning here. However, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt. Oleinik is a legitimate, high-tier, top-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. There's going to be a massive gap in skill between the two of them in that area. And on the feet, we have seen the crochet boss, Maurice Greene, get rocked and hurt multiple times. And the thing that Alexei Oleinik does best is club and sub his opponents. He comes in and swings for the fences, he rocks them, and then while they are compromised, he drags them down to the mat, and that's where he chokes them out unconscious. The dude's got an 80% finish rate by submission over the course of over 60 fights. We're going to rock with the old man one last time because this is just such a perfect matchup for him. And again, we have locked up that dog money plus 115. We are moving right along to the co-main event where Raquel Rocky Pennington is taking on the former title holder and the woman who dethroned Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm. Now, Holly Holm has been on a rough skid as of late. She's only got 2 wins in like her last 7, I want to say, and she's been fighting top competition, but the 2 wins are over absolute bums that really don't belong in there. Raquel Pennington, on the other hand, has run into a bit of a rough patch herself. She fought Amanda Nunes, but she took Amanda Nunes all the way to round 5, which is something that nobody else has been able to do. And then she bounced back and got a good solid win in her last fight. This is a story of 2 different career trajectories. Holly Holm is 48 years old, and she's having a hard time putting wins together. Her style of kiaing and just making sounds as she misses her opponent and swings at air moving around the octagon, it's not panning out for her anymore. She doesn't have the power that she used to have unless she lands a flush head kick, which Rocky is going to be more than prepared to defend. That's the only way I see her getting this win done. I think Rocky is the more physical fighter. She's got more gas in the tank. She's younger. She's going to push Holly up against the fence. And also, Rocky's boxing has been improving. I think she's going to win a 3-round decision, and I love the plus 120 price. Finally, we've made it to the main event. The last bet on our card, we're looking at Conor McGregor versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone. And you all know the struggles that I have had betting Donald Cowboy Cerrone. If it wasn't for the referee stopping his fight against Tony Ferguson, I would have lost the under that I bet on that one. I have a terrible record trying to bet Donald Cerrone fights. Every time I bet on the guy, he shits the bed. And every time I bet against the guy, he shows up and wins in spectacular fashion. It's really unreal. So in this fight, what I'm going to do is lean on the fact that I think Donald Cowboy Cerrone is a bit compromised. We're going to take the under 1.5. Once again, we're getting a nice juicy line on that. I got plus 105 on the under 1.5. Conor McGregor is taking this fight at 170 instead of 155. He's put on a shit ton of muscle, and you can see that on his Instagram, and anytime he poses with his shirt off, he is very, very physical looking at this point. He's gearing up for a rematch with Khabib. So he has his wrestling on point. Cerrone's not going to be able to get the takedown, and these two guys are just going to stand and bang. The last two fights that Cerrone has had, he's taken a ton of damage. Tony Ferguson and Justin the Highlight Gaethje. He went 2 full rounds with Tony. Like I said, it was a doctor stoppage. He was very clearly losing that fight, but he took he took a beating in that fight. The referee really saved him when his eyes swole shut between rounds 2 and 3. Justin Gaethje blasted him with maybe the hardest punch he's ever been hit with. It was a 1-round KO. Just didn't belong in the same cage with that guy. And now he's taking a short turnaround just a few months later to take on Conor McGregor, that's maybe the hardest puncher in the division besides Justin Gaethje. That's not a recipe for success. Conor's looking out to get a distinctive, dominant win so that he can check his name on the list for the next contender for Khabib's belt and get that rematch that he's looking for. In order to do that, he needs a statement. He needs to come in here and put Donald Cerrone away. He can't have a grinding 4 or 5 round fight and then just squeak by and have everyone be excited for him to fight Khabib. No, he's got to finish Cowboy, and he's got to do it in a hurry. The other reason we're taking the under is that there is the fact of Conor having a weak jiu-jitsu game. Now, I don't think it's weak. That's maybe a bit of a strong word, but Donald Cowboy Cerrone is a better jiu-jitsu player than Conor is. So if this somehow does manage to hit the mat, we leave that window open for Conor to get submitted by Cowboy. We get that upset. We still cash our bet. I just don't think this thing is going past 2 minutes and 30 seconds of the second round. Those are the plays. 8 bets to kick off 2020. We are rolling over here, ready to go. Check me out at Die Hard MMA Pod on Twitter. Good luck this weekend on all your action low baggers. Hit me up on Twitter if you want to chat about it. If you've got questions about any other spots on the card, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. And make sure you catch us on the live show with SBR and my boy, Jimmy the Bag. Good luck, everybody.